Finding Strength podcast is sponsored by Avantacool.
Avantacool.
Yeah, cold plunges. Who's surprised? We got a cold plunge sponsor. Yeah. I met Jeff Rempfer at a first responder conference not too long ago. He and his brother Dave are the owners, and Jeff's a first responder guy. They are killing it. They're this amazing cold plunges. We just got one put in at our house. How do you like it?
I love it, actually. I mean, it's
Game changer, huh?
It is a game changer, especially from coming from a horse trough?
Horse trough.
That's what we've been using.
It worked.
Hey,
it
did. It worked. It was great. I love it.
But it
I
doesn't
love
have a UV filter, freaking regular filter. This thing has a hot tub filter.
Yeah, it goes hot and cold. It's amazing.
It goes to 104 degrees and then all the way down to
45 degrees.
30s. Into the high 30s is what they'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy good stuff. We love it.
You don't need to go that low to get the benefits.
Yeah, low 40s is actually really what you need.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. 45 degrees, 3 minutes, and then get me out.
And then get you out. Yeah, we love it. But the main things that our sponsor wants us to highlight is that it's got an all aluminum frame. It's light, easy to move around. We put it up on our deck. We're able to get it up the stairs and stuff like that.
Installing it was the easiest thing. Like that was the easiest part, was installing it. I was surprised. We took it up a flight of stairs onto our deck, and it was not that hard.
Yeah.
I was surprised how light it was.
Right.
And then even like filling it up. How was that for you?
Super easy.
Yeah.
Really easy to use. I absolutely love this thing. It's got this huge pump in it, so it gets cold really quick and it can heat up really quick as well. And the best part, most hot tubs use like a 220 cable. You have to direct line in.
Oh, yeah.
This thing uses 110. You just plug it into your regular friggin' outlet and you're ready to go. Another amazing benefit. If you use the code STRENGTH24, you will get 25% off.
25% off.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Amazing. They're hooking us up. They really love the cause. We love them. We couldn't be more grateful to these guys for sponsoring the show. So if you need a cold plunge, Avantacool. That is AVANTIKUL.com.
Avantacool.
Hey, friends, people, all the listeners, all the human beings that are out there, we're glad to have you back on another episode of
Finding Strength Podcast.
Finding Strength Podcast. Here we are. My goal today, Brindy,
is
to speak clearly, enunciate, not mumble. So if I'm talking slowly and it sounds annoying, it's because I normally talk like this. I talk really fast.
So fast.
I don't know why. It's probably
breathe.
The inner ADD child.
No, it's your stage presence. Because when you're on stage, you only have so much time and you have to hurry up and fit it all in. And so you're like, so fast.
Yeah, I got to go quick.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's my goal for today. What's your goal for the day?
Not to be critical.
Not to be critical. I love it. This will be a good one.
We got this.
And in case, if you're watching on YouTube, you've probably noticed this amazing human being that we've brought onto the show. And you're like, man, Brindy, what the hell are you doing? Where did you find such a fine specimen? Well, we know people. This is Jordan. Jordan, dude, I've known you. How long have we known each other? When did we meet?
This would have been, fresh out of intensive, whatever it's called, IOP. So it would have been July 2016.
I was going to say 2016.
Crazy. Recovery Ways, man.
Recovery Ways.
Wild.
Good spot. They're still around, right?
Yeah. They're still doing their thing.
Nice.
Churning through people. But yeah, they're just a powerhouse in their recovery community. Yeah, last episode we had on Ty Hansen, who owns Steps Recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know Ty?
I don't know Ty, but I did catch a little bit a glimpse of that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool story.
Yeah, he was
Crazy,
good dude.
right?
Yeah.
Wild. So apparently we're doing like a recovery run because now we're.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of cool. And
I
before
love
that, we
it.
had
Yeah.
Kevin Thacker
Crown.
talking about recovery. But I worked in the recovery industry for many years, and I've met so many cool people along the way. And you were definitely one of the top cool people I ever met. Actually, we were talking about just before we started the show. My very first gig right out of grad school was Recovery Ways, and you were one of my very first clients. Can
Proud
you
of
believe
you.
that? And you did not look like this. He did not. No. Maybe
I've had some looks in my day.
we
for
should
sure.
do a before and after picture when we post it, because it's incredible your transformation.
Thank you.
Like
Yeah.
you are not just a different looking person, you're a different human being.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I had to be. There's no other way to go about it.
And that's kind of how recovery works, right? I mean, you got to have this. We talk about it, the endless cycle of death and rebirth, which is kind of like this morbid way of looking at it. But in reality, that's what growth in life is about: is this shedding of the old to make way for the new, and that's what recovery is. That's what getting sober, whatever you want to call it, is all about. So we're glad to have you on here.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Matt showed me your Instagram page and I was like, sweet, he's going to show me how to teach me how to get on some muscle. I want to learn how to get muscle on my body. So
I don't doubt that we can get into some of that stuff
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Jordan, because you're a freaking pro at that. I actually steal your
trying to
stuff
be.
all the time.
I'm trying to be, and it's funny because I'm just barely starting. Like I said, imposter syndrome kicked my ass for a long time.
Yeah.
But now, I'm working with someone. I'm really trying to put some stuff on social media. Granted, it's mostly just like the douchebag side right now. It's a lot of me, not in clothes, in a way.
well, you got to show the
But
progress,
yeah,
right?
I'm gonna bring out some worthwhile content. Hope to show my personality on there more. But
What is your Instagram handle? We're just going to throw it out right now. Normally we do it at the end, but people are going to pause this because
Yeah.
they're going to go look at your Instagram.
yeah,
What
it's-
is it?
It's Snowfit SLC.
Yes, definitely follow it, because
Snowfit
he's got good
SLC.
nutrition, like information as well.
There's about to be. Like I said, it's
Yeah.
mostly just a lot of me.
It's a work in progress.
It
Yeah.
is.
Well, I
yeah.
saw just recently you posted like what I eat in a day.
Mhm.
That was really helpful. There's a lot of stuff on there that I was like, okay, I can incorporate that. It was really good stuff. So keep it coming, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got some
Appreciate
followers out here that
Done.
are learning from you for sure.
Well, to get started, we kind of like to get a little bit of a background about you. So just kind of share with us like where you're from and then where you fall in the line of your family and how many siblings you have and stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah. I was born in Sandy, Utah. I own a home in the neighborhood I grew up in. I'm talking like a 2-minute walk.
I love it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. So,
cool.
Back to where I started, but yeah, born and raised Sandy, Utah. I've got, my mom and dad, they're still married, defying odds there. I've got 3 sisters. One is 10 years older. She had a different dad. I just throw that in. It's not like we ever looked at her like that,
Yeah.
but 10 years older. And then 2 years younger than me, there's identical twins.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Samantha and Sarah.
Okay,
That's
so
awesome.
you're the only boy.
Only boy.
Okay.
And then
That's
my
crazy.
older sister has 3 daughters. So I've got 3 nieces. And then I just had my first daughter
Aw.
9.5 months ago. So yeah, surrounded by women my whole life.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
You know how to treat women then.
I'd like to think I do. That's when you start thinking you do, you're slipping up.
I'm sure they taught you a lot.
Yeah. Sounds like a woman taught you that.
Yeah, right.
It's true though. Constantly, right? We gotta be reassessing. Like, okay, is this working? Is it not? I love that. That's
Right.
really great. That's
Yeah.
really great.
So how was your upbringing? Like, did you have a
My
child?
upbringing, it was great. Dad did it all together, brought it all together like financially. My mom she was able to be like a stay-at-home mom, which, I'm seeing what goes into childcare. I was like, God damn,
It's a lot.
that's a lot of work. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did our first trip. We're not our first trip. She's actually traveled a few times, but first international trip just last week. And man, it's a lot.
It's a whole nother level
lot.
traveling. Like the
I mean,
infant.
my wife, she handles the load mentally, like, okay, here's the checklist, this many bottles, this much formula, like all that details I don't even need to worry about. But yeah, just like hauling it, packing it, everything, going through customs, reaching. It was,
Yeah.
How does
beating
one
my body up?
this little tiny thing? How
Yeah.
does it have so much stuff?
So much,
So much
It's
stuff.
crazy.
so much.
Yeah.
It's wild.
That's crazy.
And she's a girl, so gotta have like 2 or 3 outfits a day at least.
And
Yeah.
bows
Minimum.
and accessories
Yes,
and
I know.
all the things.
We have one girl also. She's
Yeah.
the babies, and she has all the stuff too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
the same deal.
Yeah, we're the opposite. We have 3 boys and 1 girl from your family growing
Yeah.
up in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what led you to Recovery Ways and meeting Matt?
So like I said, I had good upbringing. I'll share my sisters. Well, one sister in particular, she would be pretty quick to say my dad was an alcoholic. It's like not for me to decide. Yeah, he liked to drink a lot. He grew up, he was in sales, in like the 80s and 90s. You're traveling a lot,
Yep.
you're on the road. I mean, it's probably pretty common for that era.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, I don't know. It's not like I just only ever saw him like completely too shit-faced or anything, but he did like to drink, and my mom was the one more like raising the kids. He was around, I don't know. It's a lot different now, but yeah,
Can I interject?
yeah, of course, please.
I think what's hard about talking about my parents and some of the stuff that I look back on and go like, oh, that was a little questionable. Does it feel like I don't want to disparage them? Like I don't want to talk bad about them, but I also want to be real.
No, for sure.
So like you're a little kid. How old are you when you have this idea of dad? Like, dad's a drinker, maybe. Like, is that when you have that imagery? When you think,
It's not even that I can put that back to an age, because obviously as I get older and start getting into my shit, then I look back, I was like, okay, I can like identify all this stuff. But in the moment, you're like, this is our normal.
Got it. Yeah.
Where I really stood out though, and I can't really say an age, but my dad, he just, the relationship with my mom, like verbal abuse was kind of like more his thing, never physical or anything like that. But man, he would just, God, he was an asshole, if he would come home drunk. And I don't remember the age, but there were a few times when I was younger, I was just like, God damn, I can't believe my mom puts up with this. Like, my mom's incredible. She does so much, holds the house together, just does anything and everything. And she's a total like entertainer. My mom's like, the family parties, it's at her house, and she's like doing the cooking and everything. Like, she loves pleasing people. And that's where it like really stood out. I was like, God, dude, like that kind of sucks. Like, how does my mom put up with this? And so, that lasted a long time. And, like most kids, I dabbled with drinking young, like 9th grade, play around with it, tried some weed. You get a little irresponsible. You try your first shot of ketamine because that was like a big deal. Like,
That was a thing.
Yeah, I mean,
it was.
today
That was
when I
a
tell people,
thing.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh, you never like slammed like ketamine in your shoulder when you were 9th grade? It's all funny to me now, but like also.
but at the time, yeah.
Yeah.
But nothing like ever got out of control. I played high school sports and like high school basketball. Like, I wouldn't do any of that. It was kind of more like summertime stuff, and kept it together pretty well. And then I think my junior, senior year, that's where like OxyContin
Oh yeah.
was like big. That was like the heyday for it.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was.
And
What year's that?
So that was probably when I was a junior, and I had actually tried that for the first time, and I wasn't into it. I didn't like it
Right.
whatsoever. I threw up. I was like, who wants to
didn't
just
dig
do
it.
something and feel sick
Oh.
and throw up?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like the door opened and the door immediately closed, drinking a little bit. My senior year, I didn't really do anything. I got a serious girlfriend. And yeah, I wasn't really.
How old are you?
I'm now 38.
38. So you graduated in
2004.
04.
Yep.
So we're talking like early 2000s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2000.
Yeah, so this is the height of the opioid
Opioid,
epidemic.
yeah.
It's starting to peak early 2000s.
Yeah, that's like not the height, but that's like the boom. You know what I mean?
That's when it
Where-
starts, I guess, not the height.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I mean, it started, but obviously
Yeah.
we know how quickly it was. It
Yes,
took
yes,
the
yes.
U.S. by storm. But yeah, my senior year, I had a serious girlfriend, so I didn't really drink much. I wasn't like smoking weed or any, like nothing really.
Mm-hmm.
Weed use like really picked up after I graduated, but it was all kind of fun and games, you know? I was active, I worked out, I played in basketball leagues. I didn't go, I kind of loosely started community college after high school. And yeah, nothing was crazy. And then when I was like 20, maybe I just turned 21. Had a girlfriend, and one night she had brought out like an 80, Oxycontin 80. And didn't think anything wrong with it. She's like, "Do you want to do this?" I was like, "Oh, I haven't done that forever." So we did it. You know, I got sick, but you know, I liked it. It was different than I remembered, and you really like it quick.
Mhm.
And so, you know, we started
Mhm.
doing them more and more.
Yep.
And suddenly it's like I was going to a lot of Jazz games back then because the Jazz, that 2005, I mean, they went to the Western Conference Finals against the Spurs.
Yep.
It was like the first Sunday game I had remembered my whole life. But suddenly it's like I have all these good Jazz tickets. It's like, oh, do we even want to go if we can't find Oxy in time? And you know, and
Yeah.
you don't think much of it,
No.
but you're doing it all the time. And then
Yeah.
you're like, wow, these are kind of expensive. So I better start buying more and selling it.
Yep. It just like creeps up.
it
Like you
does.
don't even notice it's happening until it's like your first priority.
You
You're like,
don't even
"Whoa."
notice. It's just like, oh, it's just like it was with smoking weed. You know, I could take it or leave it, but I really like doing this. It's fun. My life isn't like complete shit yet, but yeah, I you know, stopped working out because I got introduced to like lifting weights when I was in like 7th grade, and I really liked it.
Mhm.
And in high school, like that was the thing to do. You know, like I went to Jordan High School. And everybody worked out at Life Center like after school. It was like the hangout.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you were just
Yeah.
like high school hangouts. You
Yeah.
were like lifting weights and playing pickup basketball and like sitting by the pool. Like
That's where
just
Ezra's at right now.
awesome. Awesome. And so like I knew I liked lifting weights and all that, but you know, I start doing Oxy every day and lifting weights is harder and harder. And I kind of stop or do it less. I'm not playing in basketball leagues. And yeah, before you know it, you're like, damn, dude, I can't not do it.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to think about withdrawal because in my head I would have to accept that I had like a full-on problem.
Well, and they're labeled as not addictive, right? So you're like, I'm not addicted.
Yeah,
Like that
doctors
goes
said
into
it.
the story. Yeah.
So that's where that really took off, and it's a lot of bouncing around. But I remember I had my good buddy. We booked a trip to Europe, just the two of us, and it wasn't like it didn't really cross my mind about like, oh, I need a trip to like stop doing this. It's like we booked this trip. You know, I somehow still had life together enough, like money to go. We did like 4 or 5 weeks in Europe, and he's smart and like responsible. I pretty much just had to like buy a plane ticket. He like mapped the whole thing out, like booked our hostel stays, and it was just, yeah. Him and I, we go to Europe when we're like 22. I didn't realize that I was hardcore addicted to him. But obviously I'm snorting those pills until the second the flight leaves off. You know, I remember going, into the bathroom at the airport, snorting an 80, and then like, okay, let's get on this flight. Well, the flight was like a direct flight to Paris, layover, and then fly to Greece. By the time I got into Greece, I'm shitting uncontrollably, like mad
detox.
diarrhea. Yeah, I'm like sweating, I'm
Yep.
sneezing.
Oh my
I
god.
was like, what the fuck? Gosh, I get sick on these flights. And I'm like, it's not even dying on me that I'm like withdrawing.
Drawing. Yeah.
And then I get to Athens and then I just start drinking, you know, every day, but having fun. I'm traveling. Those first 3 days were pretty rough. And then it kind of went away. And I was just like, it kind of started on me. I was like, oh, maybe that was like withdrawal. I was like, well, that's cool. That part of my life is like closed. I'm off of it. And I'll just enjoy this trip, which I did. Had a lot of fun. Went back home. Girlfriend's there. Snorting oxy like first day
Getting
back.
right back in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, you know, that was early on. And then it just kind of just went that way, like uninterrupted for over a decade. You know, I didn't end up getting sober till I was 30, almost 31.
When did you first realize like, okay, I think I need some help? When did that realization?
So it's like you always know, you just don't want to think about it,
Right.
you know?
Yep.
And
It's in
so,
the back of your mind, like, do I have a problem with this?
yeah. And so I got back from that Europe trip, and that would have been 2009. Yeah, I want to say like 2009. And then I get right back to doing them, going hard. That girlfriend and I, we eventually like break up, and then it's around that following October 2009, and it's my first semester at the University of Utah, and I'm actually doing pretty well in school. I meet this girl, we loosely start dating, but then yeah, I stopped doing Oxy. I was able to just completely stop, but I'm drinking every day, like every day. Like I'm getting drunk at like Lumpy's downtown to go to school at the University of Utah. But you know, in the moment, you take that as like, dude, I'm getting clean off of Oxy. I'm just drinking every day. Where's the harm?
Lesser two
I've seen my
evils.
dad do it. You know,
Yeah.
granted, he's an asshole, and kind of go back to that. I remember a time because yeah, amidst all this, I was working for my dad. He with like no structure to the job. It was pretty much I was getting money to not do much, but I mean, he was an asshole. And like when he would come home drunk, he would say stuff under his breath. So I just immediately think he's talking about me or my mom. And then I see him and I want to like let loose. So I was like, well, fuck drinking alcohol because he's an asshole. I want to be like him. I'll opt for like drugs instead. There's like all these just signals going every which way. But yeah, I have this girlfriend. I get off. I drink every day. We end up like not dating and right back to the Oxy. And then that was like, those were like the only couple of stints where I actually stopped. And then it turns into like, you know, years go by and you're just, damn, you're watching people you went to high school with or like go on to do things with their lives. They have families, they have good careers, they're happy. And I'm at the time, yeah, I was working a phone sales job. I was able to finally move out of my parents and had this apartment in Sugar House and I didn't do anything. I would go to work, but I was just at home like snorting pain pills all day, every day, just like ungodly amounts, selling a ton of them, going to work, and then I'd be at home and I'd have like Xbox on, or I think I've rewatched Sopranos and The Wire and all these old HBO shows because streaming just wasn't as big of a deal back then.
Yeah, box sets.
I've seen them. Yeah, I've seen them through so many times.
Yeah.
Just being strong. But yeah, I didn't do anything. And just you always have that in your mind, like, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna do less. I'm gonna do less. And then it starts getting, because my parents start like financially planning. So my two younger twins, one of them has cerebral palsy and she lives at home with them. So
Your sisters.
sisters, yes. And so she's an identical twin. Samantha's a nurse. Mary lives downtown. And Sarah to this day lives with my folks. They live the life. But they start kind of like thinking ahead, like estate planning, like what's Sarah going to do in this? And this whole time, like my parents think I'm responsible. They think I'm just, they know something's wrong because I'm not dating my way. I had like a pretty good physique. I was active, built up a little bit of like good foundational muscle before I stopped. But now I'm skinny, fat, tall. I had like super long. I mean, there's some pictures. It's funny because with this social media blitz, I'm going through all these old pictures. She's like, let's find your transformation pics. I was like, well, here's like the physical ones, but there's not a lot of pictures of me when I was like in the depths of my addiction. You're not exactly wanting to be in pictures.
Yes,
I'm not like taking selfies. Like
you don't want to be seen. That's why you're numbing. Yeah.
Well, I had some good looks. But yeah, so my parents figured something was wrong, but I'm huge. I'm not I don't do anything. I go to this phone sales job and then I just do drugs, and I'm alone all day. I'm just totally isolated. I have some close friends, but they don't know. I kept this like double life going. Nobody knew. My parents just figured I was depressed about something. And
But in the back of your mind, you're thinking what? Like, what's the story you're telling yourself?
oh yeah, and that I totally just lost track of thought. But where I was going with that is, yeah, my parents are like financial planning. So they're like, oh, you're going to be the executive of this will. And you're like, oh shit. Like, okay, they think I'm responsible. They think I'm about to buy a house and I'm like spending all my money on Oxy. I'm having to make more money selling Oxy to just support that habit. Like I have nothing going for myself. And so, yeah, you just get that idea like, okay, like one of these days your life's going to be okay. Tomorrow's the day. I'll do one less. And then the next day I'll do a little bit less. And like, nobody will know. I could turn my life around. Nobody will know. It'll be my secret. And then, of course, that's not how
But day after day after day after day, that doesn't
telling
happen.
it
yourself.
just gets
Yeah.
worse.
And then eventually, like, what do you start to tell yourself in your mind? Like, what is the story that Jordan starts to tell himself when he can't get clean? What do you start to see as you? For me, it was when I could do it. For me, it was I'm a fraud, or I'm a failure, or there's just something wrong with me. Do you identify with any of that stuff? Or
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously something's wrong with you, but in the moment, you just, I don't know. You think about, you start playing just more and more mind games. So I've noticed, it was like, okay, one day I did less, but I had the pills on me to do at any moment. But I know if I just have them in my possession and I could do them at any moment, I'm less likely to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like when I really want them is when I don't have any, and then the withdrawal set in, you'll do
Right.
anything and everything. I'm like, okay, so I'll always have this supply. You just,
Yeah.
I'm going back and forth. But then, yeah, there's moments you want to think about it. And then most of the time you just don't want to. I remember back then, like I would smoke weed from time to time. And that's when I'd really get thinking. And I was like, wow, dude, you are a fucking loser. You're not doing anything. You're approaching like 300 pounds. Like you're weird looking as shit. Like I have like pictures of me where like, dude, if I saw, and I would walk to like the grocery store around this. So like if you were walking down the aisle with your kid, you'd be like, oh shit. this
Bring
is
your kid over here. Come here,
gross.
sweetie.
yeah. And that becomes this like pervasive, like I call it the lens that we see the world through, right? Where I believe that like there's something wrong with me or I'm a loser or whatever. And then I put that lens on and then that's how I see everything. And it's so hard to see that I'm not that. And so I can't even imagine a future where I'm not that, even though the lie I'm telling myself is that I can quit. But in the back of my mind, I know believe, think that I can't. And the cycle continues. That's that addiction cycle, man. It is insidious, bro. And it just digs so deep into your soul because I end up believing that there's something so bad about myself that maybe I'm not even worth saving. So why try? And I just do the same thing over and over. And I get just pissed at myself. And maybe at the world too, but like I remember these moments of just feeling just like there's something so just broken inside that it'll never get better.
Yeah. No, man, I remember that. And one of the big moments, it's funny, you think like, oh, what happened to like turn it all around? Well, like honestly, like I ran out of money. You know what I mean? Like I ran, like I had a title loan on a car and like
You can't keep up the facade.
Yeah.
couldn't keep up the facade. And I worked with a guy and we played high school basketball together. He was 2 years younger than me and he was a good dude. And we weren't even like that close. He'd worked at a different location and then transferred to mine and we kind of reconvened. And in that short amount of time, like he had just had a son. He was happily married, like owned a house. He was doing like everything right. And one day he asked me if I could get him a little bit of weed. And I was like, yeah, I can get you weed. I don't really smoke. He didn't know what I was doing on the side, you know. And at this point, you're like, oh, you're mixing Xanax with it. You're doing anything and everything. So I gotten him weed a couple of times. And like, I just remember looking at him. I was like, damn, this dude has like, shit, what am I doing? You know, it's one of those things. Man, he ended up passing away. I think it was deemed like an accidental overdose, some combination, but oxygen cut off, passed away. And
Some tragic death
just
thing.
tragic death, man. And he wasn't a total fucking loser junkie that I saw myself as. And I was just like, that really hit me because I was like, wow, he's leaving behind a son and a wife and all this stuff. And I was like, dude, you're still alive. Not doing just wasting fucking space. And so that like really, you know, I thought it'd be enough. It wasn't. I still went like months after that. It got a whole lot worse where you kind of tried like the hero, you know, make the switch out of money. But I do look back and I think of him often, but yeah, no, that lens you're talking about, because it was that moment where it really hit me. I was like, dude, you're just a total fucking loser. Your family thinks this, that like nobody knows who you are. You don't know who you are.
Yeah.
You don't do anything you once enjoyed. It's just like, damn, you know, it's like.
Well, and these are those moments. And in Buddhism, they talk about like, unless you learn what you're supposed to from the lesson will keep being taught to you. And these are these moments that happen in our lives over and over and over, where it's almost like the universe or Mother Nature or God or our situation, or whatever you want to call it, life itself is trying to teach us about our potential. And that shows up as like this painful thing, this conflicted feeling inside of me of like, I kind of have this idea of who I'm supposed to be, but I don't really know. But I believe I'm this loser. I don't even know who I am. That conflict moment is so important in the life of a human if we can recognize it and do something with it, do something about it. That happens to everybody on the planet, right? You've heard of this whole midlife crisis thing everybody talks about, right? That happens to everybody.
Yep.
It's how we reconcile my life with reality. Am I going to live according to what's real, or am I going to continue to lie to myself and live this facade and pretend to everybody else that this is what it is, and I care so much about what everybody else thinks, and as long as they think this of me, I'll be okay. But eventually, I have to reconcile that. I have to look myself in the mirror and be like, who am I? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? What's the fucking point? And that's this. So that's kind of one of the first moments. This guy dies, and you have that moment of like, okay, who am I?
Yeah, your first.
What am I doing?
Yeah.
And then,
yeah, it got really, really bad.
as it does.
Yeah, and it's like, I still have this apartment in Sugar House, but I spent a night like at Maverick on 5th South.
On the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did when you would take the hit of the pill, because you were snorting it, right? Crushing it and stuff.
Yeah.
What did it make you feel?
Well, when you feel something, it makes you feel pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, this was from your mouth. You had talked about like what heroin would feel like. And you put it in the words of like when you're a baby and your mother's hand is like tickling your back. And I thought that was a really good way to put it, for sure.
Not my words, it's my buddies.
I heard it from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Very good.
I use that, right? I still use that to this day, because it's this hit of this chemical called oxytocin alongside of it. And that oxytocin chemical, especially with opioids and alcohol, downers especially, creates a bonding effect. Much like you bond with your mother, or a best friend.
So you're being
or a lover.
comforted and high, all the same. It's the best.
It's crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
And the opioid pathway in the brain is also being activated, so it's numbing all your pain at the same time. So until you're at the Maverick on 5th, you're not going to wake up to the reality that this is destroying your life.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the other thing with addiction, right, is like that's why we keep taking the pills and keep going and doing these things, because what we're feeling, like people aren't doing drugs because that doesn't feel good. It feels good. Like, let's just call it what it is. Drugs feel good, but it gets to a point where we feel like we can't be happy anymore without them.
Oh, yeah. Well, with opioid, you can't do anything without
them. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you don't even feel good and this is a side. I mean, it's disgusting, but yeah, the opioid induced constipation. I mean, you'll have, my routine were like 2 weeks without going. And then it's like the day it's going to happen, like, it's going to happen. And
no one taught you to take stool softeners with it?
Oh, no, you try that. You try that. And you're like I was like, well, I know I need to drink water and I know to do this.
Yeah.
But it's not on the front
It
of your
doesn't.
mind.
No, it's not going to outweigh, 1,200 milligrams of oxycodone in like a 12-hour window.
Exactly.
It's just not.
Yeah.
And so, like, you think that I'll never forget the first time that, like, what I would describe like childbirth. And like you feel a tear, you look down and the toilet is just like all blood. And then you're just like, well, now my asshole hurts, so I need more painkillers. Like
That's
And I
just,
continue-
but that's
yeah,
it, right?
That's how
and
it
then
is.
and then you go back to the painkiller,
Damn
and
right.
it does its job, and you're like, all right, next.
Well, and that's why you keep
That
up
cycle.
on it. Yeah, it's that cycle. You just keep going, keep going.
Yeah, we had. So I gotta make a comment, and hopefully this guy listens to the podcast. I doubt it, but some guy commented on a post that I did of the Ty's podcast, and he's like, "Nah, I did it just because I wanted to fit in. And I said, because that whole podcast is about pain, right? And how pain is the reason why we continue to use, which is what you're talking about.
Mhm.
And this guy's like, nah, I don't think it's because of the pain. It's because I just wanted to fit in. And I get that, sure. And we're just going to round this out so that everybody listening can't cognitive dissonance themselves away from being a part of this conversation. Because it's really easy for people to look at this conversation or listen to this conversation and be like, yeah, I'm not an opioid addict, right? I don't have a problem or whatever. Well, let me help you understand addiction for just a second, okay? Because the definition of addiction is repeated or continued use or behavior despite negative consequences. Think about your life in relation to that particular definition. Continued use despite negative consequences. What are you doing that's creating negative consequences that you don't care about the negative consequences because in some way or another it might numb you, might provide something for you that aids your life in some way, but the negative consequences outweigh the benefits, but you continue to do it. This is something that we have a really hard time assessing within ourselves because we're so pain averse.
Yeah.
We don't want to feel the pain of, in this guy's case, not fitting in. When I said on there, I was like, well, not fitting in is painful. And you go take your freaking drink or whatever so that you don't feel the discomfort of
Not fitting in.
not fitting in. You're still numbing the pain. So it's always the same thing. And there's a million bajillion different ways to continue to do this, right? I could be addicted to like rubbing my head on the carpet, or I could be addicted to whatever. If that negative consequence outweighs the benefits, this thing is negatively contributing to my life. And so I need to just reassess and recalibrate. And it's not that big of a deal if people can begin to realize that this is the process of growth in human life. If you're trying to get better at anything, you're going to reassess and recalibrate constantly. However, if you are unwilling to reassess a particular behavioral usage thing in your life because it's too painful to reassess that thing, that might be your clue that this thing is not working for you. But that's really hard to do because now I have to look at all the things that I do and all the stuff that I continue to do over and over that I've lied to myself or just tricked myself into believing benefit my life when in reality, the negatives outweigh the positives. Mm-hmm. That's a tough one.
It is.
But that's why I love the recovery community. And that's why I feel it's like this absolute privilege that I get to be this voyeur on everybody's recovery journey. Because I get to watch as you reassess and look at like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, even though this subconscious drive in me is telling me that I have to do it. Mm-hmm. So how do I deal with that?
Yeah.
What do I do to be able to reconcile this idea that I have to do this thing, but I know I can't?
Yeah,
bro, if you can overcome that, if you can figure that out, think about the mental strength, the spiritual fortitude that you get by going through that process. And that's why people in recovery are some of the most powerful, strong-willed, incredibly generous people that I've ever met. And I think that's kind of like, I don't know, the other beautiful part of doing the recovery thing. I don't know what comes up for you. What do you think, man? We'll get back to your story. This is what I do, dude. I come in, I'm like, hey, and then we come back to the story. But what do you think, man? Do you relate to that at all? Like the whole like reassessing my life and looking at like, oh, this is not working for me, even though I feel like I have to do it.
I do. No, I mean, my brain's always my brain.
Yeah.
You know, and even with how I operate today, like I'm very routine anecdote, you know, from like my just take like the fitness aspect of it. If I implement something, you know, if my workout was like a little bit better, you know, a few extra reps or increased load, whatever it is, it's like, okay, that's going to be incorporated at the same time of day, like every day. You know, I take a long list of supplements. I can't tell you if any one of them work. I can tell you, I can write down like my routine of them, the time I take them, and the rest of my day. And I'd like to think it's coming together to work. So no, I kind of like almost treat like, or have to treat like all aspects of my life like that. I
So-
kind of reassessing and
Yeah. The
Yeah.
thing I hear you talking about is discipline,
yes.
which is something that you did not have pre-recovery.
I mean, it's like you could argue both ways. Like, yeah, I had no like self-discipline, but man, like being an addict is hard fucking work.
It is.
The way I did it, because again, I kept it.
The way everybody
I
does
went
it.
above and beyond
Yeah.
to make sure it was a secret. And yeah, it's a lot of
But-
work.
So facetiously, I asked that question on purpose
Yeah.
because actually addicts are extremely disciplined.
Yes, that's what I like. Yeah,
Extremely disciplined, but that disciplinary focus is misdirected.
Yeah.
Is misguided.
and again, you're like, is this good for my life? And I guess it's just you
Yeah.
have to reassess your goals, because yeah, if your
Yeah.
goals are to be that, like you're killing the game.
Yeah.
Just keep doing it.
Yeah.
You know,
If you want to be 300 pounds,
you're
like guy
alive.
everybody
Like
turns
you're
away from. yeah.
pushing the envelope. Like, cool, man. There was a time I could do enough oxy in a day to kill a small village with like no tolerance. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if that's your goal, you want to be some like science experiment, like you're killing it.
Sure.
But yeah,
Or
you
if
have
you
to-
want to go work 60, 70 hours a week and completely neglect your family and make a ton of money
Yeah.
and then lie down on your deathbed and go, oh shit, I missed my life. Like you could do that too.
Right.
We have all sorts of options, but this idea of discipline is really important in understanding that. That's just why I love working with addicts or whatever, the addicted people, as I hate the term addict, but
Recovery.
people in
world.
recovery,
Mhm.
because to stay in addiction as long as people stay in addiction and not die, that requires some serious discipline, some serious tenacity.
Yeah.
And some of that, yes, is the addictive mechanism of the brain, but also it's a testament to the human being desire to continue to survive. Think of how much hell you go through when you're in the middle of addiction, yet you keep doing it over and over and over because you don't want to feel pain.
Yeah.
Now imagine if you could take that drive, that level of discipline, and instead of saying, I'll do anything to avoid pain, you redefine what it means to be, you or alive or live. Instead of avoiding pain, that's what is living. Now I shift my focus, and instead of avoiding pain, it's no, I'll feel whatever pain it takes because I love the feeling of being alive. Imagine now if I could take all this discipline that's over here to avoid the feeling of being alive, pain, and now I could shift that feeling over here to feeling the feeling of being alive and use my discipline in that area. What could life be like? That's what you figured out. 100%, right?
I feel it.
And I think that's the thing that people have to catch on to, is that thing that's holding you back, that you're using as your quote unquote crutch to keep you from feeling pain. That's the gateway to understanding yourself. If you're willing to remove whatever it is that's there, because then you can look inward and go, okay, who am I? Who's Jordan? And so I interrupted your story again, but continue.
No,
Right?
that was
Yeah.
awesome point.
Yeah.
Where
So
was I at with the story?
So next, so
Yeah.
now, so you were at the Maverick on 5th, and now you're
Okay, yeah. So like the last little bit, money.
You ran out of
last
money.
little bit.
Yeah.
Amount of money. Yeah.
I remember I had text my mom, or it was a Monday, and yeah, I had text my mom asking if I could come stay at her house for a few days. That's all I said, And I was really close with my mom. Like I see him off, even like in the depths of my addiction. Like they live in Draper. I was in Sugar House. I was down there all the time. I was stealing money from him, Probably had something to do
As you do.
with it. Yeah, as you do. But I had asked her if I could come stay with her, and she's like, "Yeah, of course." Like, what's going on? I was like, "Oh, nothing. This was all over text message." I was like, "It was nothing." And she's like, "When?" I was like, "Oh, in the next day or two." But I had text messaged my manager at work. And I was like, "Hey, man, I've got some problems I need to work out." And I forget the exact wording I said, but he came back. He thought I was just like talking about the job itself, because somehow I was still like, I wasn't that good at the job, but I was good enough. And he's like, "Well, man, if you want to like really plot out like a future here. Yeah, we can sit down. I was like, oh no, dude, I have a drug addiction. Like I'm talking a whole different route. And so I went and I talked with him in person, and we went on a walk around. They have this big old like pond thing. We're walking around that, and I'm in tears telling him I'm this total junkie. I don't do anything else with life. And he's like, okay, so I'll talk to HR. And that was like Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, HR wanted to talk to me. So I went to work. I had packed a bag. So I was planning on just going to my parents. I go to work. HR cleared my, what, a FMLA, I think it's called, like your leave of absence type thing.
Yep.
And then she's like, hey, if you can wait till Friday, like rehab, there's like a representative that comes here that can point you in direction of like rehab, this or that. And I was like, oh, Friday, first instincts, like, yeah, like put this off. I could go like get a few more days worth of oxy or whatever.
Oh, I can make Friday easy.
Yeah.
like
Immediate, right? Just
yes,
like start planning.
immediate. But I had already packed the bag. I'd already told someone. I said it out loud to someone. I text my mom about staying there, and she's, that was Monday night, and she's now texting me, calling me. Are you okay? What's going on? What's going on? I was like, nothing. Everything's fine. I'm going to work. And I remember saying, I was like, no, I'm just gonna go stay at my parents. Like I know if I don't do this now, I can't do it another 10 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I got FMLA cleared. I drove to a vape shop. Vapes were big back then. Got all this, like my vape supplies. I drove to my parents. My mom was already outside in the backyard. I mean, it was a beautiful day. This would have been, like May 16th, 2016. Maybe 18th. I forget. I got to double check. But she's in the backyard. I have a bag packed, and she's like, what's going on? I just tell her, I was like, I'm a drug addict. Like, I don't know what else to do. Here's my phone and my car keys. Hide them. I'll probably try to fist fight you for them in like an hour or so.
And is this
For
the
you,
first
man.
time of her hearing that you're a drug addict?
Very first time.
Okay.
Now, and here, God, I have some funny details there. But so, yeah, she's just like, what do you need to do? I was like, I just need to stay here. I don't know what else to do. My dad comes out, and my mom was like, yeah, he's addicted to drugs and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, and by the way, I've stolen like a bunch of money from you. Like it's around
Just come
this
and glean, man.
$20,000 mark. Yeah, it was.
And you're just like pouring.
But I'd been
your
like
heart out.
carrying this secret for so
So
long
long.
and
Wait.
multiple.
It's too heavy
and
to carry
a double,
anymore.
a triple life, and that like, and, looking back, that ended up being like my prop. Like that was like, the bigger
Living
part of the
multiple
problem.
lives. Yeah.
But my sister Sam, so one of the identical twins, she's actually at this time, her and her husband are in the process of becoming nurses. At the time, they both work at uni, So like, where you detox? So my mom, God, she's so great. She cooks me this meal, and I'm just there, and I'm already starting withdrawals. I'm eating like avocado, eggs, and toast, fresh cut grapefruit, and then I'm just like already sweating. So I go down. They have this exercise room, and I start lifting weights. Everybody's something I haven't done in
For a long time.
9 years.
Wow.
And then she comes down. She's got Shane, my sister, and her husband on the phone, and Shane's just like, "Hey, they want to talk to you." They're like, "How long has it been?" I was like, "Oh, dude, it's been like over a decade." Like, well, you can definitely do it. You can sweat it out there, but you can come up here. I had insurance. Like, we'll make you the most comfortable. And so I was like, "Fuck it, dude. I'm open to anything." He's like, you should think about doing like a full rehab. I was like, fuck it, I'm in.
I'm
I've already told my secret. It's off my back. Honestly, in that moment, I felt like a new person.
Oh.
He gives me the checklist. He's like, yo, you can't bring vapes, get cigarettes. You're going to crave sugar more than anything, which you already do. You're addicted to opioids. It's like, when I checked, I was like 315 pounds, man boobs, hadn't done anything active in years. Already craving that, opioids and sugar and cigarettes is that's the diet.
Yep.
But yeah, I ended up like jumping right in, and that was it.
So you went and stayed at the detox center.
I went and detoxed at uni, and then left there and went straight to Recovery Ways in Murray. Wow. And I was rock climbing the next day, and that was awful. I was like,
you're like, I have to lift this body up the
I was
wall?
I was like 300 plus pounds, like, withdrawing. But it was great. Look back, it was Recovery Ways was awesome.
That moment of freedom, that release where I can unburden myself from the past by coming clean, that's an underrated moment.
Oh, yeah.
It's ultimate freedom from, I don't know what. Like, what is it that you let go of in that moment?
I would say pain.
Pain, lots of pain.
I feel like when you like truly are confessing and you're taking that heavy thing off of you, even though we're numbing the pain, I think we're also carrying the pain. And so when we're able to like let it all out, it's like, oh, here's my pain I'm going to share with you. I can't carry this alone anymore.
Yeah.
For me.
Well, and you in the East, they got all that energy center stuff, right? They talk about the chakras or whatever. And as you kind of learn about what energy centers are and what they're for, you learn that like the 3 base energy centers, like you have one like in your perineum, like down in your root, right? Mm-hmm. You have that's called root chakra down the perineum. And then you have another one at the base of your stomach. And this energy center, right? This chakra holds all your shame and all this like negative self-belief stuff. And oftentimes I'll ask people like, what does it feel like and where do you feel that? And they're like, oh, it's so heavy. It's in my chest, but it's like there's like this heaviness to me and it's like in my gut. And then I remember, you know, some confessional stuff, like releasing things. I just remember feeling just lighter, but I definitely remember like this release of all this gut tension, yuckiness that was just there all the time. And since learning that about the chakras, it really makes a lot of sense that that's where we hold a lot of this. It's in this energy center, this shame of belief that I'm a failure, there's something fundamentally wrong with me. And to unburden that from oneself is incredible. And if I can do that and let go of it, like think of what I've just freed up inside of me. The ability to, if it really is in the gut, now the gut can operate more, you know, optimally, and I can actually digest things. And what's really interesting about trauma, speaking of the gut, is like your happy chemicals, specifically serotonin, is mostly developed in the gut. And the number one physical symptom of traumatized human beings or addicted human beings is gastrointestinal issues. Yeah. Second is cardiovascular. And so it's just kind of interesting that these, you know, thousands of years ago, they discovered that like, that's where you hold all this stuff. Anyways, fun facts, good old Eastern medicine philosophy.
I mean, and making more and more sense today, just with like all the information on your microbiome and calling that like your second brain. Yeah.
It's wild.
It's all there.
So when you leave Recovery Ways inpatient,
yeah,
and then you come to IOP, what's that like? Because that's when we met, right? So now you got this hope. Maybe take us a little through that IOP journey and what's happened since.
Man, I mean, there was nothing but hope. You know, I felt good. Like, you know, in rehab, it's funny because that was like my first so far only time in rehab. But you meet people.
One and done, baby.
Yeah, man.
Good
I mean,
for you,
meet
dude.
people. It's a routine thing. You know, you meet a lot of shitheads, young people that, you know, it's their parents' insurance going through there. They've already been to rehab like 4 or 5 times.
10, 12 times.
Yeah. I mean, you meet anyone and everyone there. But I wanted to be there. I had a great time. You know, I was ready. You know, I unloaded that secret. And then it's funny because, now I look back, I was like, damn, I unloaded that secret. And like the first thing I went and did, because I felt the sweats coming on, I was like, I went and exercise, you know, like right there was a huge shift. Because normally I'll just sit on a couch and like mindlessly watch TV and then just there I'm not moving. So I'm just thinking more and more about like finding more drugs. But
when you exercise, that wasn't there.
No, like I was just downstairs, like exercising day one. I remember checking into uni and just being like sore as shit. And we're talking like a few sets because then my mom was quick, like, oh no, they want to talk to you about IOP. Man, it was nothing but hope. You know, I at that point, like just over a full like month of sobriety, and now I'm back. You know, I'm back to working. I'm living with my parents. You know, they wanted me to live with them. I still was paying for this apartment somehow in Sugar House, trying to figure out how to make that work. But man, IOP, it was all great. I had a great time in rehab. So IOP was it was fun, man. It was like 3 3-hour sessions a week, I think.
Yeah, it was awesome.
We were
What-
doing like breath work
Oh,
stuff,
that's
just
cool.
lessons. I mean, it was fun.
What did you discover about yourself that like you could bring to the table?
Oh, I mean, nothing really. I mean, I don't know. I was just back to like
Bullshit.
me. I was smiling. I was
Liar.
happy.
No, I'm
Not that I
calling
could like
bullshit.
bring anything.
No.
I don't know.
But for yourself,
doing
like,
my
to
therapist
move
thing.
forward.
Okay.
Okay, do it.
I'm doing my
Go.
therapist thing for a second. Okay.
Yeah.
For sure, there's something that you discovered about yourself that had been hidden away or shrouded by the addiction that you were able to uncover and believe about yourself that led you to the transformation you have
Today.
today, you've created. Like, what is that? And you might not be aware of it. And this is a common thing with transformation. We don't have to call it recovery, right?
Yeah.
Like work, self-discovery. It's a huge part of life. Because when people come to my office and they sit down, a lot of times they're like, I don't even know who I am. I don't even know like what life is. Like, I know what I'm supposed to do, but that old thing, like, we're not humans doing, we're humans being. Well, this idea of who am I is, who am I supposed to be? How am I supposed to be? What is me being? What is being? And when I begin to ask those kinds of questions, I begin to understand who I am. And that's when I can flourish. But up until that point, I'm just gonna keep doing. But now that you've stopped just doing and you started being, who is Jordan now as opposed to who was he before?
Because you say in Recovery Ways, it gave you hope. What was that hope? What did it, like, what hope that you were like ignited by?
I mean, I unloaded like over a decade of like shit. So it's like, I'm just in Recovery Ways. They do the hot seat. I remember like the first time doing it, maybe second time. And she was an older lady. And she was kind of a bitch. And she I got in the center.
So what's hot seat? Describe it briefly.
Yeah, okay. So you're surrounded by a bunch of people in rehab.
It's group. You're in a group.
yeah.
It's
You're
a
in a
group
big
therapy
You're
session.
in a big old group therapy session.
20 people in the room, 15
and you
people in the
sit,
room.
and yeah, the goal is like people to tell you what they see so you can better better understand how you project yourself, or what your
Yeah.
projection of yourself to
Yep.
other people.
So you're in the middle of a room of 15 people, all with chairs surrounding you in the very middle, and you have a therapist who's
Guiding it.
older
Yes.
lady
Yeah.
who's guiding it and
Yes.
pushing you. And okay.
And so this lady said, and again, I was stoked to be in Recovery Ways. I have a picture of me smiling outside of uni, and it was the first time I actually smiled, but I had just unloaded Secret. I felt great. I was like, wow, this is like, there's still hope. Because you reach 30. I hadn't had sex or done anything in like 5 or 6 years. I wasn't sure like anything down there was even gonna work again. I was like 315 pounds, man boobs, like life. I thought before like telling my secret and like starting the path of recovery, like I thought life was over. There's no way, or it'll be this different version, whatever. But I was fucking happy to like go detox. I was fucking happy to go to rehab. And I'm in the center of this thing, and she's like, you smile too much and it's false, and I know you're hiding something. And it caused me like go in my head. I was like, is that true? I was like, I don't know. I'm pretty fucking stoked to be here.
You're a
Like
good dude.
my
Always a good
family's
guy.
visiting me every chance they get. I'm getting I'm jumping through all the hoops. I'm like, I paid to be there, and I was happy as shit. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think that was it.
You're finally
I
being
love to laugh. I
truthful.
was
Yeah.
smiling. And I was truthfully I was fucking happy.
You weren't living a double life anymore.
No.
Like you were living your life. Like this is me. This is all of me. You're all
Yeah.
seeing it finally
And so in my
for
head,
the
I was like,
first
no,
time.
this is like the first time in my life. Like, I don't have to like fake a smile. And I'm just happy. Happy to be there.
Yeah, I remember we went up. We did a hike. You remember we did that hike up to the kitchen, up next to, up next to uni or whatever. We did this hike. I think it was with you, maybe not.
I may not have been there.
No, I'm thinking of somebody
We
else.
did a lot of hikes.
We did a lot of hikes. I didn't go on this hike with you, but I do remember when you would come into group, you'd be really happy all the time. I do remember that. I do remember taking moments with you where you were this guy who was genuine about himself, and you weren't trying to be something you weren't. And I would guess you're still that guy today.
I feel like I am more than ever.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It is.
So maybe the news story that you tell yourself is I'm good enough, or I'm okay being me, or I'm lovable, or I don't know, all of the above. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm comfortable in my skin. You know,
What's that like, dude?
it's amazing.
Right?
It's amazing.
But it takes work to get there, but it's possible. That's wild, man. So what's a day in the life of Jordan these days?
Man, great days.
Yeah.
You know, I'm up. Obviously, I have my fitness goals in place.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be actively competing this year, but
Because you do bodybuilding competitions. Yeah.
yes. So
Oh,
I've been
okay.
trying to turn pro in classic physique division. This past November, just a few months ago, I was close. I was right there. I had improved my placing from the year before. I won my class, but at this show, I had to win the overall to turn pro, and I just missed it.
So that you have to win and over like the whole.
This show you did. There are other
Okay.
shows I could go do, where it's arguably easier to turn pro, but again, you never know who you're going to be.
So
It's
turn
a subjective
pro-
sport.
What happens when you turn pro? Why is that such a?
I get
desirable
a
thing?
10-pound weight bump, and then I get to compete as a pro. It's just something, it's like
It's
this is-
different.
I found something I'm good at,
Yeah.
like to reach the professional level of
It's like
it.
a different echelon. And
Yeah,
you get
that's
to compete
cool.
against.
Just- I
other
get to
guys.
compete
It's the
against the
next
people,
goal.
the best people in the
Yeah.
world at what I'm doing. And it is important to me. It's not the most important thing to me, but I'm not going to be competing this year. My last 3 rounds of show prep there's been a lot. The 2021, my wife and I'd gotten her pregnant, but the little girl had trisomy 18. So we knew what to accept. And that came in a miscarriage about week 20. And it was 2 weeks out before a show. And, I was absent. It was
That was
easy for me to
rough.
lean into
Yeah.
my routine. And I had already kind of accepted that from news of the doctors. But then I probably failed as a partner and a husband to show up for her. And then 2022, it's to get pregnant, we had to do IVF. So we were doing that. So that's a lot on her end. And
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
our need for IVF is strictly because of me.
Mm.
And so she gets to really do all the work there. And then just this last year, I did show prep with a baby.
Yeah.
So I've kind of, my wife's been put through the
Different game.
ringer. So 2024, no shows, a lot of travel with our baby girl, just having fun. But I still
for you.
have my things in place. So I still have a daily step goal, daily macronutrient goal, which I hit because I love to do it. It's how I live. So my days start I'll always do a little bit of a fasted walk, whether it's my dog's outside or treadmill inside, just depends how cold it is. Cook my first meal. Wife is up about that time. So if I don't have to be in the office too early, I'll help with daughter stuff because my wife, she runs her own business too. She's an interior designer and
That's cool.
blowing up like crazy. So
That's cool.
Good for her.
we do have a nanny in place, but yeah, I'm sharing in the parental duties, seeing clients. Sometimes there's holes in the day where I'm popping home to help, where I'm running errands, cooking food.
You doing training? Is that kind of the main job? Is
Yeah, so
doing
coaching
training,
and
coaching?
one-on-one training, coaching, online, in person, all of it.
Damn.
And
That's
my own
awesome.
training.
2016, I asked that, Jordan. Hey, man, 8 years from now, you're going to be a professional trainer. What does 2016 Jordan say?
I mean, 2016 would have been back on it because, they took us to Vasa in
So
recovery.
that's when it
rooms.
started. That's when
Yeah.
you saw the vision of okay,
There's
this could be my
something
thing.
you knew you
So
could
that,
do.
I mean, that's
yeah.
where I just saw the, okay, it's fucking time to go. Because
Yeah.
get this. So yeah, I grew up in Sandy. Recovery Ways takes us to Sandy Vasa. So day one, I'm 30. I'm on a field trip from rehab. They pull up in those very inconspicuous vans, and you walk out in a line of just some good looking
Characters,
crazy
bro.
looking
So
people.
I'm
You
in
probably
Sandy-
still see him come into
I'm in
Vasa, huh?
Sandy Vasa, and of course, I'm good at. It's at least I think I'm good at it. As a drug addict, you think you're good at spotting people before they spot you. Well, fuck, I'm 6'4" and easier to see than ever. But I look different, much worse. So probably easier. But yeah, I remember seeing ex-girlfriend day one at Vasa. Saw her across the gym. I was like, oh fuck, I'm not gonna see her. Found this other friend, and I did go up to him because I was like, dude, he had gotten sober, Man, my first time they took us to Voss, I run into him. His name's Zach. And I was like, oh my God, dude, like we had our falling out because I was a shithead drug addict, like this, and that. And at the time he was sober, he just had a son. I was like, holy shit, dude. And he looked great. And so, man, I hit the ground running in rehab. Luckily, rehab doesn't give you soda or like sugar. So I lost a ton of weight eating way more food than I had been. No soda. I get out of rehab. I'm working out every day, and then I just go back to old things I knew where I was like, oh, I'll eat a lot of like spinach, tuna fish, and oatmeal. I won't eat carbs after 2. Why? I have no idea. I just did all this shit, but it worked pretty well because I was able to stick to it like religiously, but I was seeing progress. I was,
There's
approaching.
that discipline, man.
It was
And that
discipline.
discipline,
That's
yeah.
your thing, huh?
And then what's even fun? There's so many. God damn it! There's so many ways I could go. But my wife, I worked with her at this company when I was all fucked up on drugs. Back then, I had no sex drive, nothing. I loosely flirted with her a little bit. My second to last Sunday in rehab, my mom and sister get to come pick me up and we get to go out to dinner. Okay, good behavior. And so we go eat at this place, a fashion place mall. And then I needed some new shoes and a few articles of clothing to go back to rehab for my last week. So I picked those up. And my mom was like, oh, I'm going to run into J. Crew. So I go into J. Crew and I see this girl walk out of the back room. I see her and then is like, fuck this. So I leave the store. Again, I'm a 30-year-old on a field trip in rehab with my mom and sister had to like sign me out for.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to see anybody. But I did see her. And yeah, part of that's like I got out of rehab, started getting back into shape, and I started going back to J. Crew, kind of looking for her. I never ran into her. Then I eventually found her on Facebook, hit her up, and yeah, we're happily married today.
Oh,
Funny story,
amazing,
but
man.
yeah, man,
I
I hit the ground running.
Dude.
I knew I liked lifting weights. I figured that out at a young age. Kind of thought I knew what I was doing there, so I just jumped into what I knew from the past, and then it all evolved.
So let's say somebody, we'll steer away from like the recovery thing for just a sec. Like, let's say that somebody wants to do better and getting not just fitter, but like actually better physique, right?
Hmm.
Top 5 things to do in your estimation.
I like that.
Okay, top 5. I mean,
Physique focused.
physique focus. All right. Well, you got to know where you're at. And what I mean by that is like you need to track your food. You need to know what's
Track your
coming in.
food.
You know, like all like fat loss, fat gain. It's all just a matter of energy balance in its simplest terms. So you got to know what's coming in. And yeah, if you can track and add like a level of accuracy to it with the use of a food scale or whatever, measuring cups, whatever, like awesome. So you need to track and then some device to tell you like I use this mostly for non-exercise activities, step goal. This is
Step
just an
goal.
expensive way to track my steps. Cause yeah, you can just like, that's my last 2 show. My current coach, I'd used a handful of coaches, but I met this guy who was very health oriented, smart, simple. Granted, I know my way about nutrition, so I'm able to I can go as deep as you need to, but service level, my last couple show preps have been like, okay, your macros are this in 3 numbers, this many grams of protein, this many grams of carbs, this much fat. And then I have a daily step goal. Granted, in show prep, you're trying to get fat free. So sometimes that's 25,000 steps in a day. And you'll just, do what you need to
Do
get
what you
them.
need to do.
But that's easy as shit. So know where you're at in terms of like that energy balance. Track your food, know where your steps are at. And then obviously like adhere to that or fill your diet full of stuff you like to eat. So you saw my what's
Yeah.
eating, that's simple shit. And it's good. It doesn't always have, I eat no chicken. I found out years ago that I consumed way too much chicken. It's naturally high in omega-6. So if you start to disrupt that balance of omega-3 to omega-6, you can get some inflammatory issues, some gut health
Interesting.
problems. So
Yeah, I didn't know that.
yeah, eat shit that you like to eat.
Okay.
Don't just
There's 3. 2 more.
prioritize sleep
Love
and
it.
recovery.
Oh, that's
Have
a good
to,
one.
because
Yes,
really
you
fat
do.
loss, it is. You need to look at it it's a delicate balance of stress. We're taking food, which should be like a parasympathetic input, recovery from stress, and we're gonna turn it into like a stressor because we're gonna start strategically starving your body. And so you have to get that recovery from stress. So, if you're not doing sauna, ice bath, or meditation, a lot of these things that fall in that parasympathetic category, you need to prioritize a lot of sleep.
Do you do sauna, ice bath, all that stuff?
I got to get back. I haven't done ice baths for a minute, but yeah, I have had
Sauna's
points where I'm
huge.
doing them like 3-4 times a week. I'm still actively doing the sauna.
Yeah. Love the
Love it
sauna.
all.
Sauna's rad.
Love it all.
Fifth, what you got for fifth? Because I'll recap at the end.
Yeah.
What's your fifth one?
The fifth one, I mean, you gotta have like, I don't know how I'm putting it. Like how I'm gonna put. You just have to have your shit together. Like life, you know what I mean? Like your life has to be ready for that kind of stress.
Body, mind, and soul.
Like partner, like people around.
Yeah.
Like you got to be ready to set those boundaries. Like you're gonna have to say no to some shit. You know, like I go to like every birthday party celebration stuff, but I don't always like eat the food there.
Discipline.
Yeah, discipline.
Back at discipline.
Well, it's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Regularity, consistency, discipline. Yeah, my favorite definition for discipline is Mike Tyson's definition. I don't know if you've heard this one.
Maybe.
If you can do it with his accent.
I can't. I don't make fun of Mike because you get in trouble for that.
Okay.
His definition for discipline is doing something you hate like you love it.
Great.
Like could it get any more simple
No.
and more accurate?
Yeah, it's
Love
true.
it.
But you
So-
learn to love it too.
Yeah.
And
Like,
that's
you
the
learn
thing.
to just
That's the
thrive in that
point. Yeah.
discipline.
You learn to love doing stuff you hate.
And
Yeah.
then you move on to the next thing, and then the next
Yep.
thing. Yeah.
Yep. So the top 5 were recap. Number 1,
Know where you're at.
know where you're at.
Track all
Track
your
your
food.
macros.
Track your food.
Have a method to track like your steps.
Number 2, track your steps. Method to track your steps every day, making sure you're tracking your energy
Yeah, just output.
output.
I mean, it's hard to like people always ask that question. Like,
individually.
hey, did I really
Yeah.
burn this many calories in the workout? Like, probably not. But these things are
Steps.
consistent. And that's where it's kind of funny because you always come back to like consistency is always going to beat out accuracy.
Oh, I love
Every
it.
time.
Consistency is always gonna be
Doesn't
out
beat out
accuracy.
accuracy.
That's a good one.
It will.
That's a good freaking little clipper right there. You got that one, Ryan? That's a good one, dude. Number 3.
3 was, it's kind of just, consistency falls into it, but like fill your food intake with shit you like. Don't
what
just
you like.
Don't just like cut out stuff you like to eat. Like right now I'm averaging like 2 to 3 G2G bars a day.
love those things.
They're so
They're
good.
They are
delicious.
good.
I had one this
delicious.
morning.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, I already had one. Yeah, my
Yeah.
last meal, like it was super simple on the go. It was like 7 ounces of cooked sirloin that I smoked yesterday and a G2G bar.
Boom.
Boom.
Easy.
Yeah.
Love it.
Delicious.
Yep.
4, which was my favorite one of all the 4. Prioritize recovery.
Prioritize
Specifically
Yeah,
sleep. Right?
Yeah.
Love
That's a
that.
big one.
Yep. He freaking knocked out.
I
He
know.
said it.
I
He
know. I
said
was like,
cold
yes,
therapy, folks.
sleep.
He said freaking sauna. Yep. I'm pointing at the camera. That's right. Because we talk about cold therapy a lot on this
Yes.
podcast. A ton. It's fantastic.
Mhm.
And then 5th was boundaries and discipline, which I thought was that's a great freaking top 5 for getting fit.
Not what you think. Not what you thought it would be.
No, I loved
Brilliant.
it. Actually,
That's totally doable and a
Yes.
little different than what you normally
yeah.
hear.
I was waiting for you to say water. It's like he's gonna
Yeah,
say water.
water-
But then
water's
you
important.
said boundaries, and I was like, actually,
I mean, water,
yeah,
should go without saying.
yeah, it should.
But like I said,
Yep.
there's ways to we can I like simple. Like
Yeah.
like what I'm starting to do on Instagram, like I just want it clear, concise, simple. But yeah, if you ever want to dive down the rabbit hole of like nutrient timing and like, let's track your sodium, potassium, magnesium levels through the day and talk about restoring that after how long your sweat session was, like I can go that detailed. Is it necessary? No. For
Yeah.
99.9% of the population, it's not.
Yeah,
That's right,
Yeah.
man. Well, dude, I couldn't thank you anymore for coming on.
yeah.
I
Thank
really,
you.
man, you're such a
yeah.
freaking stud. It's so good to see you.
You
after all
are
these
so
years.
happy too. I love your
He is,
happy
right?
energy. Yeah, you
His
can feel
energy's
it. You're a
awesome.
good dude.
When I almost took offense to when she said that. I actually did in the moment in my head. I was
should.
like, fuck you.
Yeah.
This is like real. Like,
yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, life is great. And, had I ever 2016 Jordan, you say, hey, what's life like in 2024? Like, I would have undersold, like
Yeah.
underplayed it.
Do you think that's? Maybe I'll just say, I think that's kind of what humans do in general. We undersell ourselves. We definitely underestimate what we're capable of. Most of us.
So in the fitness, you see it because 3 to 6 month period transformation, people overestimate what they can do
Yes.
and completely underestimate what they're going to do in that year, 2 year.
Yeah.
But then they hit that 3 to 6 month mark. It wasn't what they thought. And they're like, fuck it, I'm done.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
brilliant.
that is.
Yeah,
That's
I
crazy.
love that.
Yeah.
Overestimate the short term, underestimate the long term.
Yeah.
Dude, Jordan dropping the knowledge. Do you want to plug anything as we wrap it up? Instagram or social or any programs that you're doing right now that you want to make sure people know about?
I mean, yeah, you can give me a follow, Snowfit SLC. I'm going to start putting out content. I have a few openings in my books for clients. I
Oh,
said
perfect.
I opened it when I came up at Key with Brad. I was just doing like the nutrition, like consulting, and I would program workouts. But I did see a huge disconnect in like, you know, what the client thought was an intense workout and what it should look like. And now I have a better understanding in biomechanics and how to actually train. So yeah, I've opened with where I'm at now. My office is at the Refinery Gym in Sandy. Look that up. It's an awesome gym. The owners, everyone there, just incredible. Yeah, opening up, getting the chance to do that one-on-one training, like I'm seeing way better results.
That's awesome.
Paired
That's
with
cool.
nutrition, just having so much fun doing it.
Dude, I'm
That's
so happy for you.
yeah.
man.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the baby and on your life. and
Thank
just
you.
freaking making it yours, dude. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing.
Life is great today.
Wonderful. Thanks for coming on, dude.
Thank you.
Thank
for having me.
you.